If you're a fan of Kung Fu movies, you may want to brace yourself for a jaw-dropping announcement that will send shockwaves through the martial arts movie film world. Donnie Yen, the unparalleled master of on-screen combat, has just dropped a bombshell, and I want to chime in with my thoughts on the big news, so buckle up, because we're going to dive in. Last weekend at the Cannes Film Festival, Donnie Yen, coming in hot off an amazing performance in John Wick 4, announced his next 3 upcoming film projects, and one of them continues the IPman series when he showed off a movie poster on his social media for the IPman 5 movie.
Wing Chun, IPman.
We have very little details about Part 5 of the IPman series other than it's an upcoming project from Donnie Yen, and whatever information anyone was able to glean from the movie poster that's showing off the Mook Jong training dummy and a bunch of bodies and swords scattered across the floor of a room. Now, one of the biggest questions that I've seen in the chatter online around the announcement of IPman 5 is, well, why are they making another IPman movie? And well, the truth is that IPman has become the new Wong Fei-hung. And if you don't know who Wong Fei-hung is, look, he's a folk hero who became famous as the main hero in many martial arts films. I talked about in another video how Bruce Lee first started his kung fu training from hanging out around the set where they were making Wong Fei-hung movies when Bruce Lee was a child actor.
Time for dragon boxing.
What about father?
I'll take care of him.
Wong Fei-hung has been played by pretty much everyone: Gordon Liu, Jet Li, Jackie Chan. Eddie Peng most recently played Wong Fei-hung in a big-budget movie in 2014. Donnie Yen, ironically, has not played Wong Fei-hung, but he did play a bad guy in a Wong Fei-hung movie, and he also played Wong Fei-hung's father in Iron Monkey. There's over 70 Wong Fei-hung movies, and it really looks like IPman is headed in the same direction because there are more than just the Donnie Yen IPman movies. There's The Grandmaster, which is a very artistic film about IPman and Fo Shan having a duel with the daughter of a Bagua master. There's IPman The Final Fight, which depicts an older IPman towards the end of his career. After that, the other movies started to focus on a younger IPman with 2 movies featuring Dennis To, who actually played 2 different characters in the first 2 Donnie Yen IPman movies before being cast as a younger version of IPman in 2 movies and portraying IPman in another movie, Kung Fu League, which has also featured Vincent Zhao as Wong Fei-hung. Now, more recently, like within the last year or so, there's also been 2 more IPman movies come out in China telling stories about a younger IPman. The most recent one just came out at the end of 2023 or early 2024 about basically a very young IPman fighting off a gang that's holding his entire high school hostage. So at this point, like I said, IPman has entered the realm of wuxia set in the modern era, if such a thing exists. Now, the other question that people have is where the Donnie Yen IPman movies can go. And it's funny that I'm saying that because I asked the same question in a video 6 years ago when IPman 4 was announced. At the time, we didn't know anything about that movie either, but it continued 2 trends. The first being that the Donnie Yen IPman movies became less based on the actual history of IPman, and that they always had at least 2 antagonists. Think about it. The first IPman movie, which was the most accurate through the first half of the movie, had IPman going against the other local masters before the Japanese come in and occupy Futsun. That ended with the duel against the Japanese general, which resulted in IPman being shot. And now none of this happened, but there was no way that the movie could talk about the real reason why IPman had to leave everything behind and go to Hong Kong. The second IPman movie was all about IPman starting his school and establishing his reputation in Hong Kong. Again, he has to prove himself to the local masters in Hong Kong before he can be allowed to open up a school. He ends up making friends with the main teacher played by Sammo Hung, but Sammo's character is killed off in a boxing match with a foreign boxer. So IPman has to step up and avenge his friend. And it's a very Rocky IV type story, and it's very cliche for these kung fu movies where the foreign fighter comes in and insults all the Chinese kung fu guys until someone steps up and teaches him a lesson. That movie also presents a very young Bruce Lee at the very end of the movie, asking Ip Man to take him on as a disciple, to which Ip Man's reply is to come back when you're a little bit older. In Ip Man 3, things go completely off the rails when Ip Man gets mixed up with a property developer named Frank, who's played by Mike Tyson. So you see Ip Man fight members of Frank's gang, he fights a Thai boxer, and eventually he ends up fighting Mike Tyson. The movie reverses things from the previous two because this time the conflict with the other kung fu teachers comes in the form of another Wing Chun teacher who challenges Ip Man over the authenticity of their Wing Chun styles. And that movie birthed a spin-off, Master Z. A small part of Ip Man 3 was the inclusion of Bruce Lee in 2 scenes where he eventually succeeds in getting Ip Man to accept him as a student. This ends up being a very big part of Ip Man 4, where Ip Man accepts an invitation from Bruce Lee to visit him in the US. Now, of course, this is completely fictional by this point, but it comes with the same trend, where Ip Man has to gain the approval of the martial arts community in Chinatown, and then he has to fight the military martial arts instructors who've been giving one of Bruce Lee's students a hard time and insulting Chinese martial arts. The thing with Ip Man 4 is that it ends with Ip Man telling his son about his cancer diagnosis, and the epilogue shows Bruce Lee as a movie star at that time making an appearance at Ip Man's funeral. So with Ip Man ending with Ip Man's funeral, this led a lot of people to ask, well, where can the story go now? Some speculated that the events in Ip Man 4 take place around 1964, so there's an 8-year period where more stories can occur. Other people have speculated that Ip Man 5 could pick up with Ip's disciples and tell the story of people like Wang Xianglong, William Chung, Zhou Xiangtin, or even Bruce Lee. Now, I doubt that they would try to make Ip Man 5 a movie about Bruce Lee, and if you saw my last video about Bruce Lee and Ip Man, you'll understand why I wouldn't even want to see another movie that's adding even more misinformation around Bruce Lee and Ip Man's relationship. Given the little bit that anyone is able to deduce from the poster that Donnie Yen posted to his social media, the overwhelming thought seems to be that this movie could serve as some kind of a prequel. The last 3 Ip Man movies have been young Ip Man movies, and there's also at least one Ip Man serial that has come out on TV in China within the last 5 years. And I think this could be another young Ip Man movie, but that would mean that Donnie Yen is likely not playing Ip Man, but he'd be working behind the camera as a director and possibly even the fight choreographer for the film. Another idea is that this movie could be a true prequel depicting the origins of Wing Chun, whether that be diving into the myth of Ung Moy and Miss Yim Wing Chun, or one of the people who would eventually pass the style down to Ip Man. For now, we'll just have to stay tuned as more details come out about the project. It's a very interesting time to be a fan of Chinese Kung Fu movies in general, but especially of the Ip Man series and of Bruce Lee, with the news about the new Bruce Lee biopic coming at the end of 2023. If I had to guess, I'd say that the Bruce Lee biopic will be about Bruce Lee prior to 1965, so a young Bruce Lee story. But who knows, maybe we could have a movie about a young Bruce Lee and a much older Ip Man coming out around the same time. And just as a side note, to show how off the Donnie Yen Ip Man movies have been, Donnie Yen is now 59, which means he's around the same age as Ip Man when Ip Man first started teaching Wing Chun in Hong Kong. But if you want to hear more about Ip Man and Bruce Lee, be sure to check out my most recent video on how Bruce Lee really studied Wing Chun while he was growing up in Hong Kong. And be sure to check out the other side of the story in this video on why Ip Man had to stop teaching Bruce Lee. And while we wait to see what happens with this new Ip Man movie, I hope you guys all keep training, remember to breathe, and come back and see me on the next video.